Is autism a movement-based disorder? Period. Yes. There's no way you can get from 1 in 3,000 to 1 in 29, in 20 years and say, oh, it's because we have better detection. I can tell you right now, I can go back to everybody I went to school with as a seasoned professional and not go back and say, ooh, George and Sandy had autism. It doesn't work like that. It is not a pandemic to the US government or any government system because it's not catching. But yet they say by 2050, every other child's going to have autism. So listen, but the problem is with studies like that, you're still going off of baby dictated development. This is what's got to start. The newborn movement assessment, and I mean, I can touch a baby and tell you if the baby's going to be okay from the second they're born. I don't know why these kind of practices aren't more well known, and it is what it is. But we have a lot of, you take a bad birth and throw it into some bad issues of development. It's a cocktail for autism, and it's got to stop, right? But sitting there and waiting for the child to fail to create these markers, that's what has to stop. Professionals have a really bad way of evaluating children because they don't evaluate them. They don't evaluate them for movement. They wait for the movement to fail and then they claim it, right? And that's what's got to stop. I mean, I'm sitting there at Oxford and Harvard, and you can read my papers. I have papers on this, on early detection for CP and autism, right? It should be not only, I'm not here to detect autism, I'm here to redirect it so it doesn't create. I'm not here to, we can lessen the severity of even rare genetics based off of movement. And that's the thing is, so these papers are great. What are they doing about it, right? They're bringing awareness that no, there needs to be set programs. But most programs, or all programs that I know of besides mine, are waiting for failure. So this whole wait and see, the parent thinks, oh, wait and see, everything's going to be okay. They don't understand the wait and see is how bad the child's going to fail. Right? And that's what needs to stop within the diagnostics tools. So when you get people here, and I really watch my boards for that reason, I don't let people say, oh, they're just going to figure it out. Did you evaluate the child? Right? And not only that, but nobody looks at vision as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm the only one that I know that even works with development, much less who works with vision. Right? Because if you notice, they look for markers. They look for markers of strength. They look for markers of reflexes of all things, like that's going to affect development and so forth. But they're not looking at any kind of deviation scales, and they're not looking at what needs to be done to that autism, the conversation doesn't even happen to begin with. Right? So, but please, yes, everything is a movement disorder. It really is. But as far as autism goes, yes, we have changed so much of the American birth. The World Health Organization doesn't want C-sections to be over 10 to 12%. We're at 37%, right? You cannot ask one OBGYN how many special needs children they have produced. There's not been one study of type of C-section. Now, a C-section is there to save a child's life, right? But after that, every child you have has to have a C-section. And now you're not even going to full-term labor. Now you're being a planned C-section. You're totally deviating the structures of birth itself, right? And now you have the infant security system monitoring. Let's look at that. I have graphs that shows car seats and autism. Increased use of car seats. In 1992, we started sleeping babies on their backs. And in 1994, we introduced a 5-point harness, right? Look at the increases of what's going on. I'm not saying don't use a car seat, right? But when you have a child that is going into baby dictated development versus time dictated development, has had complications during birth, and what you think is not even a complication. I had a healthy C-section. Just the fact that you say it was a C-section is not a natural childbirth. Right? And I'm not saying not save your life and the child's life, but there are movements that have been bypassed that we need to deal with. If you take a cocoon away from the butterfly will never fly. There's certain things of natures that we have to go through as living organisms. And when they don't happen, there's a problem. And that's what we need to address. So, but to sit there and wait for these babies of failures to do their markers and say, oh, it's going to be autism. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? So these kind of papers make me really mad. Like I said, I'm at Oxford and I'm thinking, and I'm listening to this stuff, right? Because I presented 4 papers at Oxford, and then Harvard School of Medicine. I did my infant developmental movement patterns, birth to 4.5 months. But at Oxford, I'm like, have y'all never even touched a baby? Like, Have you not? We've observed 40 children, plus and minus the medium age of 4, and we notice if we do repetitive clapping, and I'm like, oh my God, like really? And then by the time I got to Harvard, I'm like, okay, nobody's touched a kid. So, I've done neuroscience, I've done lots of stuff. I've got 8 books out, but guys, it's not about what I've done. We've got to start listening to this. So if you don't think that that autism is a movement disorder, that boat is sailed, and we need to redirect the children. I don't even know that, yes, bacterial meningitis. I just did a thing, meningitis, an infection will really change the way development happens. That's what happened to my son. My son had Haemophilus influenza and staph. We go by fluid dynamics. I'm reading Janie's question over here. We go by fluid dynamics. And when the fluid dynamics are changed within the system of the baby now gets heavy. We are meant to be able to move in space. We do this through mucosal flow rates. When we have an infection, right? This is why when you have an infection, you're like, where's the bathroom? Your sense of direction, your ability to move goes out the window. Yes, because you're very sick, but because of the fluid dynamics. The body was not meant to be that heavy, especially within their fluid dynamics. So it changes the whole vestibular, it changes all of that. And so, yes, it changes the development. I've done 3 lives this week just on infection alone. So that's all there. So, but here, yeah, the live will replay. Autism is a movement disorder. I've been saying that for years. But the problem is you can't look at that's a horrible paper because they're waiting for the baby to fail and doing the dynamics off of that. I get what they're trying to do, but we have to stop these professionals that are going after failure rates and using that as a way to direct development. You can't take a child and let them go into failure and say, oh, this kid's going to have autism. We have to be able to change the evaluation principles, and that's what I'm trying to do here, that a child is caught ahead of time before that conversation even happens. And so, and I have papers on it too. Like I said, they're on my website, but I can, an early detection of autism and for cerebral palsy. Like it's still out there that you catch cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy happens the second you're born, whether it's stroke in utero or something to do with birth trauma. That's why not all cerebral palsy is caught, because it could be trauma in utero. But at the same time too, I could tell you right now that that boat sailed from the second they've born, because when you, again, going back to infection, when you have a brain bleed or something like that, so now the brain bleed is a mass and it's no longer biological and it's succumbing to gravity. So that's where the CP conversation comes off into play, which is also, again, a movement disorder. It's based off of brain trauma, but guys, the second the baby's born, movement dictates how the brain's going to organize. So if that movement is bypassed, then the brain's going to organize into autism, into its range of CP, into its range of even genetics. And that's what we're trying to stop here. Yes, I all want you to do movement lesson from the day you're born to the day you die. That would be great. But the same point too is looking at the physics and the mathematical complications or computations that I'm trying to present. Like I said, in all my papers and presentations and publications, that I'm trying to present it into a way that people start to wake up, that we cannot wait for a baby to have baby dictated development. This whole thing that all babies are different, that means they're special needs. It is time dictated development. And when that time dictated development now turns into something others, that it means it's always already a deviation on what's going on. And that's what's got to stop. I can have these conversations all day long. I love to have these kind of conversations. But as you can see, it gets me really frustrated how up until now, people submitting into the NIH and such are really just trying to put the nail in the coffin about what autism is. We know what autism is. We need to change the way that the child is developing in and around autism. That's why my son is completely autistic, but he's fully functioning. I think Graham is the only person that I know that's an adult, fully functioning adult human being, except for he can't drive a car. But you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that as a brag. I'm saying that is because I've been doing this my whole life, or his whole life. But to realize that this whole big wait and see, and if babies are going to be okay or not, it's just got to stop. So, and then that's what's going to go in. As far as your next thing is, how can you support him? I have no idea because I don't have a video of your child. So right now you just sent me a text of the paper. So I go by videos. You have to look at how that person, whether it's you or the child, is organizing movement, and that's what I look out for. So and so I need videos of your child. So the paper is correct, but it's completely incorrect. You're not going to benefit from the paper. You're just going to have more like, now what do I do? And I get that those papers have to be presented, and I'm fine with it, but again, nobody's giving you a solution except for what you're getting here. And so that's why I'm trying to do these lives. And if Facebook doesn't keep changing their algorithms, that I can't do a live properly, but I've got to get out of here for Scotland tomorrow. So now I'm doing all the lives this way. I'm going to have to do it. I can't do horizontal lives, and at least to get my docket cleaned out before I fly.